What really happens inside a dismissive avoidance mind when you go silent? When you decide to go silent on a dismissive avoidant, the first thing that happens inside their mind is not what most people expect. On the surface, it looks like they don't care at all. They may carry on with life as if nothing happened, going to work, scrolling their phone, or even posting on social media like everything is fine. But underneath that cool, detached exterior, something very different begins to stir. You see, avoidants have trained themselves to survive emotional disconnection by pretending they don't need anyone. But when silence enters the picture, it pokes at their carefully built defenses in ways they can't control. At first, their instinct is relief. Yes, you heard that right. In those first moments or days, they often feel a sense of freedom. To them, silence feels like pressure has been lifted. There's no demand for closeness, no emotional confrontation, no risk of losing their independence. In their mind, they might even think, finally some peace. This is the part that hurts the most for people dealing with an avoidant, because it seems like silence is giving them exactly what they want. But what you don't see is that this relief doesn't last long. As more time passes, the silence begins to transform. At first, it feels like space. Then it starts to feel like distance. And distance, no matter how much an avoidant claims to love it, eventually feels like abandonment. This is the moment where their inner conflict kicks in. Dismissive avoidants tell themselves they don't need deep emotional bonds. But when silence stretches too long, the cracks in that belief begin to show. A quiet voice in their mind whispers, "What if they don't come back? What if I've lost them?" That thought is unsettling because avoidants like control. Silence takes that control away. Inside their mind, the avoidant begins to rationalize. They may say to themselves, "They're just being dramatic," or "They'll come back like they always do." This self-talk is not arrogance. It's a defense mechanism. It helps them avoid facing the uncomfortable truth that your silence is changing the dynamic. But the longer the silence continues, the harder it becomes to deny the possibility that you are serious. And that's when something powerful happens. Your absence starts to feel heavier than your presence ever did. Avoidants live in a constant tug of war between craving connection and fearing it. When you go silent, you unknowingly flip the script. You stop chasing, and suddenly they are left with their own emotions. This is deeply uncomfortable for them. Their brain is wired to push intimacy away, but without your energy pulling them back in, they are left with nothing but themselves. That emptiness they feel is not about you abandoning them. It's about them confronting a loneliness they've spent their whole life trying to escape. As silence lingers, the dismissive avoidant starts thinking about you more than they admit. They may replay conversations, scroll through old messages, or check your social media discreetly. They won't show it outwardly, but inside, they're testing the waters of whether you've moved on. Every post you make, every absence of a message, every sign of your independence triggers both curiosity and unease. They won't call it longing, but that's exactly what it is. Silence forces them to miss you against their will. Another thing that happens inside their mind is fear of replacement. Avoidants are terrified of dependence, but they are equally terrified of being replaced. Your silence plants a seed. What if they found someone else who doesn't need to chase me? That thought burns them quietly. On the outside, they'll act indifferent, but internally, jealousy and insecurity creep in. The avoidant ego hates being dethroned, and when you go silent, you show them they are not the center of your emotional universe anymore. Slowly, the avoidant begins to rewrite their story of you. Instead of seeing you as someone who always wants more, they start seeing you as someone who can stand alone. That image unsettles them. Why? Because it flips the balance of power. Avoidants commit only when they feel someone is strong enough to live without them. Your silence proves that strength. Deep down, they know that if you can walk away, they could lose the one person who understood them. That realization is when the wall around their heart starts to crack. But here's something most people miss. Silence doesn't just affect how they see you, it affects how they see themselves. Avoidants thrive on the illusion that they don't need love, but when your silence stretches long enough, they start to feel the ache of their own emotional hunger. They begin to ask questions they usually avoid. Why does this hurt if I don't care? Why can't I stop thinking about them? Why does their silence bother me so much? Those questions are the doorway to their suppressed vulnerability. Still, not all avoidants will respond to silence the same way. Some will double down on detachment, convincing themselves you never mattered. But the truth is, if you truly touch them, if you reach places inside them that no one else has, your silence will echo louder than your words ever did. It forces them to confront the reality that they're not immune to connection, they just fear it. And for the first time, they realize silence feels more dangerous than intimacy. As the days or weeks pass, many avoidants reach a breaking point. They can't take the uncertainty anymore. That's when you may notice small signs, a random text, a social media like, or a casual question like, "How have you been?" On the surface, it seems light, but beneath it, they're testing if the door is still open. This is their way of regaining control while also reaching out. Silence made them realize that losing you is not as safe as keeping you. The real transformation inside a dismissive avoidance mind when you go silent is this. Suddenly, they're forced to sit with the very feelings they've spent a lifetime running from. That silence doesn't just give them space. It awakens everything they try to bury. Longing creeps in. Insecurity whispers louder than their pride. And regret, yes, regret, starts to gnaw at them in places they thought were untouchable. Your silence becomes more than just absence. It's a mirror, stripping away their armor and showing them the raw truth of who they are underneath. For some avoidants, this is terrifying because it exposes the very vulnerability they fear. But for others, that same silence becomes the crack in their walls, the crack that lets love in, maybe deeper than they've ever allowed before. So what really happens when you go silent? Relief at first, then confusion, then fear, and finally realization. Realization that you are not just another person. They could lose someone who saw them clearly and still cared. And whether they act on it or not, silence changes the story inside their mind forever. Because deep down, no matter how dismissive they appear, every avoidant has one truth they can't escape. They want love. And when silence shows them how easily it can disappear, commitment suddenly doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like the only way to keep what matters most. If this video gave you clarity or made you see things differently, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of love, attachment, and attraction. Remember, understanding avoidance isn't about fixing them. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge so you can choose the kind of love that truly fulfills you. Drop a comment below with your thoughts or your own experiences. I'd love to hear from you.